Please welcome Lieutenant Governor John and Gisele Fetterman. Please. Hello there.
Yeah.
We just lost a tooth.
Yeah, like he just lost a tooth. So literally 2 minutes before we came on, so we got that taken care of. So yeah.
Well, tell the tooth fairy I said hi.
Oh, we will.
So Governor, you had some breaking news in Pennsylvania that you were talking to other press right before we went on. Can you tell us about that?
Well, one of the state senators that was helped spearhead that meeting in Gettysburg, that whole snake handling kind of crazy, talk about the election. Unfortunately, and very seriously, he's contracted COVID. He went to the White House and they test the president, everyone around the president for COVID, and he tested positive. And it's very sad because, he had this large event indoors at a hotel ballroom and none of them were wearing masks. And, and again, I absolutely, sincerely and truly wish him a speedy and uneventful case. But I just don't understand, in this day and age, under these situations, why we would choose not to take this virus, given that we had over 250,000 more empty chairs around this country's this past Thanksgiving. It's just awful.
It really is. It really is. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us tonight.
Oh.
So, Lieutenant Governor, how did you become Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Where did it start?
Yeah, well, I mean, the simple answer is that I campaigned and I was lucky enough to be chosen by the voters of Pennsylvania. But I really just always wanted to get involved. And it sounds corny, but just make the world a better place. And I started out as a program director, helping young people, get their GEDs and get their first jobs, driver's licenses, and things like that. And then I decided to run for mayor of the town that we're in, and it just went from there. And
so what town was that?
Braddock, Pennsylvania. And
how big is Braddock?
Braddock's a small town, but it's very historic because I'm sure you've all heard of Andrew Carnegie, the great steel magnate that really helped. He was kind of like the Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs of his day. He actually built his first mill here in town, and it's actually home to the last steel mill in all of Western Pennsylvania. We live across the street from it right now, actually.
Well, how cool! So you ran for mayor of Braddock. How your first time you ran and you won?
Yeah, I won, and I served several terms.
He won by one vote.
One vote. Yeah. So did you beat an incumbent?
I did. I beat an incumbent, and several terms later, I ran for lieutenant governor and won in 2018. And it's a great honor to serve. And I don't have to tell you, these are strange days for any number of reasons. And now we are in this fight where, in the first time in the history of the republic, you have a sitting president that refuses to concede an election, despite all evidence to the contrary that he soundly lost it. And I don't understand.
What if this was happening in any other country in the world? How would we be reacting? What would we be saying to that country?
We would be like, oh God, I'm glad we don't live, in
that shithole.
Crazy. Like, it's just to your point. It's just so humiliating that this idea that just because you don't like the outcome, that somehow means there was fraud. I mean, like, it's just so disingenuous and so destructive. And what I said during this whole turbulent time is that this isn't free speech. This isn't a quest for the truth. This is yelling fire in a crowded theater, and it needs to be treated as such. This is not free speech. This is dangerous, it's harmful, and it's intentionally destructive.
Exactly. So, when you talked about how you defeated an incumbent by one vote, That reminds me of a certain Vermont politician who ran for mayor and he beat an incumbent by 10 votes, and then went on to become a congressman, a senator, and almost Democratic candidate for the president, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, well, I just hosted an event actually a mile from our house here in Braddock with Senator Sanders, 3 weeks ago? It was right before the election for Joe Biden. So yeah, he was just here, like I said, just 3 weeks ago. So
Bernie's a proud son of Burlington, and we're very proud of him.
Other than Ben and Jerry's, I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than does it? I mean,
no, it doesn't. And we got Ben and Jerry too.
And Burlington, you and I, we were just speaking before. We eloped in Burlington back in 2008. So, and we go back every 5 years. So we love Vermont and Burlington.
So why did you choose Burlington to escape to?
Oh, I love Vermont. Like if things ever didn't work out in Pennsylvania, I would love to be the newest resident of the Green State. I just have always loved Vermont. And it was just a road trip. And we got married in the front yard of a justice of the peace up there in Burlington. And again, was one of the best times of my life.
Oh, that's great, because I wish I'd known, because I'm a justice of the peace. And when I heard that.
Now you tell, well, maybe after, we're 13 years, maybe our 15th we'll have a vow renewal that you could preside over.
Oh, it was so funny when I heard that you got married by a justice of the peace. I was racking my head. Did I marry him? When I checked, and it was a female, and I checked a few of my female friends who were justices of the peace, and none of them, it wasn't any of them. So I'm curious to find out who that was.
It was a very nice older lady, and we did it in her front yard. In fact, she actually even picked a couple flowers out of her garden and gave them to Gisele.
So and I will look up her name in the. Okay. Should be in the certificate. So
it was just part of reason number 943 that we love Burlington and Vermont, and it was just great.
And I saw that you were back here for one of your anniversaries, and there was a beautiful picture of Gisele, and I could tell you were at Lunig's restaurant.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
We went there the night right after we got married as well. That's where we had dinner. So we always go back, and we always get a glass. They have these glasses you could take home. We always take one back.
You have good taste. I know you have good taste if you went to Lunig's. That's one of my.
Sure. She ended up with me, so let's not say she has great taste, but nevertheless, this isn't schmaltz. I mean, like genuinely, love Burlington and go back there as often as we can, and every 5 years, that's our like every fifth wedding anniversary, we go back to Burlington.
So you have a date coming up with you next time we're in town.
I'd love that, and I'll take you a tour of the town too, some places that you might not have found yet. So Gisele, I do want to say that you are one very lucky person. Do you know that? Because I rarely let anyone more pretty than I on the show. And you're coming close, girl.
It only encourages her. That's not helpful. It only encourages her.
So how did you two meet?
You want to tell? I'll tell my story.
I don't even want to talk about this.
I came to visit Braddock. I had read about this community, and I was doing work at that time in food justice and food access out of Newark, New Jersey, which was another city that had seen its challenges. And I was curious about the work that was happening here, and I had never read about a city that lost so much. Braddock lost 90% of its population, its buildings, its businesses. So I wanted to see what that looked like or that felt like. And I arrived to visit. And of course, he fell madly in love with me as I entered the town. And here I am.
Which isn't true. But she says that knowing that if you take one look at both of us, it's true. Like you're going to believe her. But it's not true. She did come and visit. That part's true. But yes. We celebrated our 13th anniversary this past June, and it all started in Burlington. So
that is super. Now, I heard that you have some tattoos, Lieutenant Governor. Is that correct?
I do. I have Braddock zip code here, and yeah, it's really it will always be a part of me. It's where we chose to, all three of our children, Gisele, all had them home water births. All three of the kids, they were all born here in Braddock, and we live here. We don't. The lieutenant governor has a mansion in Harrisburg, and we're the first to decline to live in it. In fact, insisted that the state divest itself of it, which they have. So
They did.
They did. Yes. It's where it's our home in. Yeah.
Well, how's cool. And you live in a renovated Chevy dealership, I believe.
Correct. Yeah. You can, there's pictures floating around online. I guess it's Design Sponge or something, if you Google it. And it was an old Chevy dealership built in 1922, Superior Motors, which downstairs, of course, before this awful pandemic hit, was a national class restaurant, that same name, that has won a bunch of awards, has a national profile, and then a smaller black box theater in the back.
Okay, so you Gisele, so tell me about some of your activism. I understand you have many interests that you promote.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So I have the free store, which I started in 2012, and it's what it's called. It's a free store. It was one of the first free stores in the country where we are able to provide items to families in need at no cost. So anything from diapers to formula. And these are all items that would have otherwise ended up in the landfill, but they're perfectly good. So I really care about the environmental impact. But coming from a third world country, moving here and just witnessing the excess. Like as a young kid, we dumpster dived. I saw the waste and how much was discarded, both retail-wise as well as just in regular homes. And I wanted to create a way that we can save that, but do it in a really dignified way. So, we're entirely volunteer run, we're efficient, we're solar powered, and we're just kind of this magical little happy place where we can share things with each other.
So I understand the other day you went to Costco and picked up a few items.
Yes, yesterday, Saturday.
500 pumpkin pies. Costco ordered too many, or they didn't sell as many as they thought. And these are perfectly good pies. I mean, they would sell them. And she has a relationship with Costco and other retailers like Trader Joe's and others, that all of their surplus stuff, or hey, they get a new load of bananas in, and all this stuff used to get thrown out, and it's perfectly good food. Can you imagine throwing 500 pumpkin pies in the dumpster that are perfectly good? I mean, and this kind of capturing and rescuing and putting and matching, like who, no matter how weird and conservative you are, would you rather have a pumpkin pie go in a dumpster than on someone's table? And it's all at no cost, and it saves dumpster space, it's, methane, everything. So it's a win-win. But yeah, just yesterday.
And in this day in the COVID, the food insecurity is just growing and growing, so thank you very much. That is great. And is that part of your free store as well?
Yeah, and then I started another nonprofit after that grew out of the free store. So, rescuing food, all these surplus items. I really care about showing the value in not only people and places like my community, but in things as well. So, we do that through efforts where through For Good PGH, which is my other nonprofit with a partner, we work to uplift women. We have a incubator space designed for women in the community. So we really believe in growing the community from within. So, all sorts of support. We think women will save the world. We believe in investing in women. So we do a lot of women-centric work through the other nonprofit. But I try to think of things that would have helped my mom, who was a single mom, raising us in a country where we didn't speak the language, we didn't have any money. I think of programming that would have helped my family when we really needed it, and I try to create those programs here in the work that I do.
All right, so I know you work with this locally there where you live. Now, are you being the second lady of woman person of Pennsylvania, do you do any statewide initiatives?
I do. I recently wrapped up a tour with the census.
Yeah, they picked her to be the face of the census in Pennsylvania, not me. And I was just like, what the hell? Like, it's part of an ongoing pattern where she's everyone's favorite.
Parents love me more, for sure. It's true. So I just wrapped up a tour with the census where we really work to get everyone counted. I get to live my truth and tell my story. I came to this country as a young immigrant. I'm a former dreamer. I lived in fear for a really long time, and now I get to kind of really live openly. So I'm grateful for whatever platform I have for however long to work on these issues that I really care about.
So, Lieutenant Governor, I understand that at one time you had 2 flags hanging outside your office that the Republicans didn't like. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. My office has a large balcony that's kind of like prime real estate in Harrisburg that you basically can't walk into the Capitol without walking underneath my balcony. So I hang, the first time ever in Harrisburg, I hang the Pride and Trans Pride flag off the balcony. And I'm also a big fan of legalizing weed, which you guys, of course, and marijuana flags. And this so incensed my Republican colleagues that they literally changed the law to try to ban that practice. And of course, it's absurd on its face. Where like what they're going to, unless the Pennsylvania State Police has like the gay flag division to come see them, I don't know who they would even call to make me take them down. So we ordered some great new ones. They just arrived the other day. So we're going to redouble those efforts to prevent that until Pennsylvania acknowledges that everyone deserves equal protection under the law, and that we give our residents the freedom, the revenue, the justice, the jobs that comes with legalizing weed too in Pennsylvania.
Where does Pennsylvania stand on that now?
We have work to do. I mean, and it's a similar refrain where it's the Republicans that keep jamming these things up, and these things that are self-evident as far as I'm concerned. This idea that it doesn't matter, who you love, how you identify, or criminalizing the use of a plant or any of these things. It's just absurd, and it's counterproductive, and it should be part of this shared basket of beliefs that that I don't understand why it's even a debate. I don't know why it's considered progressive or whatever. It's just basic. It's equal protection under the law, and it's just common sense as far as I'm concerned. So, do you fear any thing that the current president might do before he leaves office that could hamper any of your favorite issues? I don't, and his time is over, and he's just unfortunately going out in a very undignified and damaging way. But he knows too. Like nobody in this country knows better than he does that his time is up. He knows that, and he is more than happy to again create as much damage as he can on the way out. But now that we know and we can expect it and we can plan on it, I think that'll minimize the kind of what would have been unthinkable 4 years ago and even unfortunate 6 months ago is now kind of like whatever. I mean, we expect it, and it's still going to go. I mean, they're still going to try to do the whole electoral college thing, and they're moving their snake handling jamboree to Arizona tomorrow, and then the snake handlers go to Michigan. So part of this, like, I don't know what it is, this sad traveling, carnival barking that they try to stir this up when, what would be helpful for their cause would be actual voter fraud, which they haven't been able to produce it at all.
Now, I understand the Lieutenant Governor of Texas offered a big reward for anybody who could prove voter fraud.
My dude in Texas was like, I want voter fraud and I'll pay $1 million, reward if you can demonstrate voter fraud that leads to criminal charges. And I was like, well, hey, dude, we got 2 cases in Pennsylvania. They both happen to involve Republicans voting for Trump on behalf of either dead or living relatives, which is hilarious, but that is immaterial because it demonstrates just how rare and how hard voter fraud is to perpetrate.
So what are you going to do with your share of the $1 million?
He just ghosted us. Like, we went to collect. And
we were all going to donate it to the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank, but he of course stiffed us. But we delivered on our end. He said he wanted fraud. I'm like, here, dude, here's the fraud. And I guess he wasn't sincere. But what is true, and the good news, if you can call it that, is one, no voter fraud. And two, a month after the election, with hundreds of lawyers and millions of dollars at their disposal, that's all they get.
I totally understand. Believe it or not, you're not the first Pennsylvania politician I've had on my show. Back before the election, I did a show with a lot of GLBT related candidates, and your own Jessica Benham was a guest on my show. And I was excited to have her, and she was elected.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to her taking it over in the House, and she's great. And I mean, there's lots of reasons, and she's one more to be optimistic. And some of these things that I just wish we could just add to this collective basket of understanding in terms of public policy and what an empathetic, society would want for all of its residents. She's great, and she's the first LGBTQ and autistic state rep in Pennsylvania's history.
That's amazing. And I've mentioned him many times, but could you put in a good word for Brian Sims for me? I always like looking at him.
For sure.
Yeah. Brian, of course, Brian's very, never shy about sharing how he feels about things. He's out in front as always.
All right. So I have one more question. After the election, when the Democrats didn't get as many House or Senate seats as they thought they should, someone, I believe she was from Virginia, said that we can't call ourselves democratic socialists. That's not working. What are your feelings on that?
Well, I respect anyone that calls themselves a democratic socialist. I respect this idea that you want to blame anyone. I would never blame a more conservative member or a more liberal member or anyone member. He or she has the right to represent their own districts in a way that they believe that they were elected to do. I don't like the kind of circular firing squad mentality of, well, it's your fault that I lost, or it's your fault that I didn't do this, or whatever, because we're in a post-truth election world right now. And it's like, you're gonna, look, we have a president saying that this was the greatest rigged election in the history. I mean, like, truth is becoming increasingly less relevant. So they're going to say whatever they're going to say. And I don't think after the year we've had, I don't want our guns trained on anybody metaphorically, but certainly not amongst Democrats. So it's a matter of represent the people to your best of ability and what you believe and what you want them to articulate. And, that's fine.
Great. All right. Well, I'll let you guys take a little break and go tend to your son's tooth and go back to the green room. And we'll be back and bring you back on because we want you to talk with Hal Sparks. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you. Oh, my. Wasn't that fascinating? That was so cool.